Buddy.
What was that?
Him.
No. No, not you. Not you. I heard you were one of the worst games of all time. What do you want?
Says she around the labs on me out of the world was just no him even was in it.
But I'm one of the biggest Spyro fans on the internet. What makes you think I can help you?
My our feet is sheer from the lab and there's no their messenger or the filers no his names no. Naturally was not for out to see it, but then we're always like it.
And what if you really are one of the worst games of all time?
Say out not again such brought by him internet.
Okay. So, enter the Dragonfly. What can be said? Well, other than the fact that it's considered one of the worst games of all time and one of the worst uses of intellectual property since the Star Wars brand vibrator. Like, fuck for Disney. But I digress. Is it really as bad as everybody says it is? Well, let's pop her in and give her a go. Close enough. So the game starts up and I notice two things. The graphics look great and the music is kick-ass. Then the actual game part of the game starts, and I continue to notice that the graphical aesthetic is impressive for the time, especially with the PS2 in 2002. Or GameCube, you know. If you're into that sort of thing. But it really only lends itself to the design of dragons and other non-humanoids. By which I mean... Hunter looks like ass. Bianca also looks like ass. And Ripto looks like a big, fat, smelly, squidgy ass. Seriously. But honestly, other than those hiccups, the game is actually very colorful, vast, open, and just appealing to look at. For the most part. Couple that with awesome music, and you have audiovisual excellence, my friends. The story is not quite on the level of Spyro 2 or 3, but it is better than Spyro 1, by which I mean it's there, unlike Spyro 1, but unlike Spyro 2 or 3, it's not very good. So basically, Ripto and his minions come back to life, because of course they fucking do, and subsequently break up the Dragonfly initiation ceremony and scatter the Dragonflies across the Dragon Realm, and now you need to find all 90 of them? 90? 90. There are 90 dragonflies for the 150 baby dragons we rescued in the previous games. What, did 60 of the baby dragons fucking die of dysentery or something? Shit the fuck? Anyway, Bianca helps you find Sparks, gives you the room with the power of bubble breath. Bubble breath. Not touching that one. And you set off on your adventure, the ultimate goal being to take down Ripto and return the dragonflies. One thing I actually rather like compared to previous games is that Spyro actually responds in conversation, giving you a better sense of his personality. He even says the name of each of the dragonflies when you catch them, although some of these names can be quite, interesting.
Hey, it's Cinder!
You.
Hey, it's Morpheus! Hey, it's Neo! Hey, it's Homer!
No!
Hey, it's Squeak!
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Incidentally, this one's probably the best one.
Hey, it's Fluffy!
We're doing this.
Hey, it's Fluffy! Hey, it's Fluffy!
But back to Spyro's character itself. If his personality was isolated to cutscenes, he would essentially have none. Why? Because there's only 3 in the entire game, which is a very interesting topic that I'll touch on later. So it is good for the sake of the story that he does have conversations with characters, although they can be pretty, weirdly written sometimes.
And Spyro, your efforts will result in much reward.
Yes, and your accent bring much racism to this game.
Remember, Spyro, the way of the dragon is to be a dragon.
Yes, and the way of a corn dog is to be a corn dog. I don't see your point.
Good, good, have fun. We Tiki will play, then Spyro plays same thing back. We take turns. Don't worry, we Tiki start small, so you learn one note at a time. Ooga! Pow!
Not sure if racist.
But other than Spyro and Sparks, there seems to be a lack of characters in general in this game. And that's because they're actively trying to escape. Oh, there he goes! But seriously, the lack of characters is why the story seems to have taken the back seat. So while the story isn't front and center, it's at least decent enough to feel like a framing device.
There's, however, one fatal flaw in the story, and that's the ending, which simply goes...
Ah! Defeated again! I'll be back, and you'll be sorry. You'll be very, very sorry. The magic of dragons can't last forever, can it?
And then there's the gameplay. And for most people, this is where the presentation falls on its face so hard that if it were a person, it would do a passable impression of taco salad. And that's for several reasons.
First of all, the constant frame rate problems, which is apparent through the entire game, it makes the controls slightly less responsive and sticky at times. The loading times are notoriously ass, although I didn't find it to be that bad. The game is also notoriously glitchy. Again, I didn't actually find that many glitches, although the ones I did were very apparent. There's also a general lack of content, as the newest additions to the gameplay are new breaths, such as the aforementioned bubble breaths, and that's basically it, and the entire game feels cut down with its content. But all of these complaints can be isolated to one statement. The game feels unfinished. And why is that? Because it fucking is! You see, after Insomniac left to make Ratchet & Clank and Universal created Check 6, they gave Check 6 a strict 2-year time limit, which meant they couldn't put half the content they wanted to in the game. Which is also why there are only 3 cutscenes in the entire game, and a lot of the characters only appear once, if that. Considering they wanted to add Nasty Nork, over 120 Dragonflies, with 25 plus levels, and several more cutscenes, this game just seems like a labor of love cut off by the greedy hands of corporation rather than a game that failed because the developers didn't give a shit.
This game truly could have been a great classic game had Universal given it another 6 months to a year to add more content, optimize the game, add more cutscenes so it will be a more engaging story, and do a thorough QA test.
But despite all of that, the gameplay isn't actually that bad. First of all, I've never been bothered by frame rate. Hell, my favorite Max Payne is 2. And I have had worse loading times because I grew up with the PS1, but I still understand that that's no excuse and it is still a bitch for PS2. And I never had that much trouble with the glitches either, as I said, even the common ones. Like swimming through the air, I never encountered once in this game, but in my time playing Spyro 2, I managed to activate that glitch 4 times. Does that mean Spyro 2 is bad? Hell no! And while there are glitches present that I encountered, none of them really got in the way of the gameplay, and some of them were just plain hilarious, which I don't hold against the game. But the turning point for me is that, despite everything, the game is, well, the game is fun. Remember that? Fun? Before gaming became a second job? The game still has that classic Spyro feel, the classic Spyro gameplay, and has just enough new content to feel like a new game rather than an expansion pack. Maybe I just have a soft spot for 3D platformers, but the gameplay is a hodgepodge of gliding, platforming, and combat with some new content mixed in like new breaths, new minigames, etc. It's what you've come to expect from the series. And while the game is nowhere near the greatness of the previous games, it's at least passable. The platforming, despite several clipping issues, is somewhat fun and challenging, and the combat is decent and challenging at points, and the minigames are fun, although the difficulty can be more inconsistent than a random number generator with schizophrenia. But whether or not you agree with me is completely your choice. But I can look past the game's flaws, and believe me, there are a lot, and still have fun. I think the game is not bad, perhaps even good, but I can definitely see why the game is objectively bad. But if you like 3D platformers and can look past the glitches and whatnot, the platforming, the collecting, the simple fighting mechanics, the speedways, it's all there, and it's all fun enough that I can give a tentative recommendation. But I won't blame you if you throw it to a volcano.
And that's probably the best thing anybody can and ever has said about this game.
Healer.
Jesus Christ. You disappear most of the review and now you show up again?
Yeah, this girl wheel.
Touche. But yeah, you're right. You're neither the best Spyro game I've ever played, nor are you the worst Spyro game I've ever played. We'll get to that some other time. But if I worked for GameSpot, I'd give you a 6.5. And that's better than a lot of people will give you.
Yes.
You're welcome. Oh, by the way. That is for taking time away from the real worst game I've ever played. Next time.